the star of your own movie. You only get one take. Why not make it your best shot? Thank you for being part of the Rise Up Summit and for being here, Barbara.
Thank you for having me. It's been wonderful listening to everybody.
I just so appreciate everybody's wisdom and willingness to share the things that they've learned and to, share that wisdom with all of us. And I know that when we have a passion for the things we want to share, there's there's always a story behind that. There's always a story of why we're so passionate about it. And I'd love to hear that from you. What led you to being so passionate? And I can't wait to find out about making my own movie.
Yeah, yes. Well, thank you for asking. I was thinking about it earlier in that as a young child, I was passionate about acting and I had no idea why. And nobody had any idea why. There wasn't an artist in the family. There wasn't anybody who understood me and my passion. And it took me many, many years. I just followed it. I just kept following it, following it, following it. And then I went to undergrad where I studied theater, but I had a specialization in creative dramatization and creative dramatics. And that's a really whole different way of connecting to the feeling place. And I've become very passionate about how to help people access that emotional mind and their feeling mind. And as I started to teach, I had an acting academy here in Los Angeles. I worked with a lot of celebrities on film sets. I have a master's in directing from UCLA. I left the acting world and I moved into the directing world because I felt I had a little bit more control. Uh, understanding at that time I needed to have a little bit more control. But what it really came down to, what I kept asking the question, why acting? Why acting? And I could see, one of the judgments that I had was that everybody wanted to be loved and everybody wanted to be the famous and everybody wanted to be the star. But I really realized that it was permission to feel. And that when you get on the stage and you allow yourself to express an emotion and to give yourself permission to express emotions that you suppress more often than not, that you come alive, like the adrenaline in the body kicks in, the dopamine rush, the whole ability to use your body and your mind and your words and your voice to express. And that's what I kept seeing, was that people come alive. And I had I was in the entertainment business for about 25 years. And I had the mentality that to survive, I had to be a struggling artist. That was the only way I could defend my choice. So that meant, well, I had to buy at thrift stores. I had to, just drink 5 cups of coffee a day and eat a burrito and just, survive as a struggling artist. I mean, I even had a show that I directed that was selected in the city of San Francisco to play at the Kennedy Center. And I wasn't even 30 years old yet, but I was paid a big whopping $400. But I accepted it. It was like, okay, let's just keep giving your blood. Let's just keep giving your blood for your art. I didn't understand that what was really happening was I didn't know my self-worth.
Mm.
So I didn't know how to grow my net worth because I didn't know how to ask for my worth. And unfortunately, I had a very traumatic event in my life where I lost my husband 2 months before my 25th wedding anniversary. And I had a successful career going in a private practice and an acting academy where I taught a lot of young working professionals. But I just couldn't do it anymore after that tragedy. It was all unexpected. And then I lost 4 more family members within a 2-year period right after him. And I went on a journey of self-discovery. I went into a spiritual psychology program and a master's program here at the University of Santa Monica, and just started to really open up my mind, open up my spirit, my body, soul, mind connection. And I went on a journey to discover, why was change so complicated? And then I studied neuroscience to understand the brain and the neurosynapses. And I'm a science geek. So I had to put together, before I could have faith in the unknown, I had to know about nanos and particles and quarks. And, so I started being very, very playful that I was just a bunch of nanos and molecules and particles, and that I was just interfacing with everybody else who was the same, and learning from, projections and judgments and how to expand. But I kept listening, Leslie, to people saying, whenever I went to an event, I certified with Bob Proctor in 2013 as one of his consultants, and I kept hearing everybody saying they didn't know how to emotionalize, they didn't know how to feel, they didn't know how to visualize, they didn't know how, to connect to their heart center. I mean, I've spoken at the unemployment office to PhDs who don't have jobs because they're so stuck in the logical mind, in their knowledge, and they're not emotionalizing in the desire and into the feeling place. And I asked Bob Proctor when I was in trainings there if I could show people, how to feel. And I would do workshops with, a large room of consultants. And by the end of it, they were all on fire because they were feeling and they were playing and they were creative. And then they were accessing larger parts of themselves that they didn't even know were there. So I like to say to people, you don't really know who you are, and you never will until you discover the parts of yourself you haven't yet met. But
Mm.
how do you meet those parts, right? And one of our biggest gifts is imagination. So now I show other people how to grow their self-worth, to grow their net worth, and ask for what they want. And I work with a lot of frustrated under-earners because that's who I was, a very knowing that they have so much potential, so much greatness, so much heart, so much desire, but they're not in application, or they don't have their foot off the brake. They're in procrastination, they're in perfectionism, they're just in the way, but don't know what's in the way. So I like to say it becomes like change. There's two ways we change. And one way is through a traumatic event, like what happened to me, where I didn't choose the change. It wasn't by choice. It may have been by attraction, but not by choice on a conscious level, or circumstances out of control, out of my control. And that the other way to change is through constant space of a new idea that you repeat over and over and over again until that neural pathway forms that new groove, and that belief starts to sink in, right? And that through the hypnosis, and and even with, I do brainwave entrainment and going into different states, from your beta, alpha to theta to delta, and moving, trying to get those neural pathways to shift. So I tell people, design your messy, get really messy, because it becomes a battle between the old self and the new self. And what that really is, what's going on in the body, once you understand that you got this new idea and everything in the old pathway is going, get the heck out of here. I don't want you. Get lost, but that new self is going, but I want it. I want it. I want it. I want it. I just don't know how. And then those two opposing vibrations create anxiety in the body. And most people, rather than going through that bridge of fear, will accept that they can't do it. And I say, like, fake it till you make it has a bad reputation, but you know what? You're faking it most of the time by the lies you tell yourself. So why
Mm.
not tell yourself a future lie? Why not give yourself a future memory, and then start shifting, gradually your habits and your behaviors to create a new identity. And that's where the role of the actor, the role of creating your own movie, the role of visioning who you're becoming, and then start to be it by shifting one or two habits at a time, looking at what isn't working and put in something that's going to challenge you, so that your personality becomes your new personal reality.
You know, Barbara, thank you for sharing so much in such a short time because again, we've been talking a lot about this, the neuroplasticity, our ability to change our brain and how we can do that. And I love that you said it's doing something and repeating it. And we've heard this. But again, when we're repeating it, I love the way you said your old self and your new self is kind of at this odds. And when you can continue to repeat the actions that take you to your new self, the pathway happens, the pathway occurs, and it makes itself known in your brain. But I also love this, and it's come up in so many ways in creating this persona or creating, I love this. This is where the acting comes in to create who you want to be, what you want your movie to look like. You can create
Exactly.
that persona.
Exactly. And a lot of people, and myself in the beginning too, would say, well, I need to believe it first. I need to believe it first. But I believe that you need to do it first to believe it. So you can put on a tutu. It doesn't make you a ballerina, but it will help you feel like you're becoming a ballerina and getting into that vibration, getting into that frequency, getting to that feeling. You're going to start to lift up and start to maybe do a little dance step, and then you might end up in a dance class. And it's the doing of that that helps you build the belief, because what you're really doing through the repetition is developing confidence. And it's confidence, right? It's like having clarity of vision is very important, but sometimes you can have a general idea and just start taking action on it to become more clear and get into the feeling of, this feels good, and or it doesn't feel good and I want to improve. I want to challenge myself. So I'm always playing challenging brain tricks on myself to get smarter than my brain, because I know that the brain is just, holding on for dear life to what it already knows. So I'll just, play all kinds of tricks and commit to different kinds of intentions and different ideas. And I'll also put on an alter ego, or I'll put on a persona. I mean, in the beginning of my practice, I would wake up every day and say, who am I being as a successful entrepreneur? What does that look like? So I would dress differently. I started out saying, well, I think I want to work with CEOs, but I had never worked with CEOs. I was in the entertainment business. And then I started putting on what I thought you would wear in corporate. And I wore pumps for the first time in my life. I was just kind of like sitting there, and I got at my desk and I sat there and I pretended sometimes when I answered the phone that I was the Queen of England, whatever it was to give me more confidence and the feeling of it and the fun and the creativity. And if somebody rejected me or said no to me, I didn't take it personally. I was like, well, you just rejected the queen, or you know, you just rejected, Bruce Lipton, whoever it was that I was like borrowing energy from in order to break up, as Joe Dispenza says, right? Break up with the habit of being myself.
I love that.
And that's what these
Yeah,
tools, right? Because the actor, the really, really good actor, doesn't start out believing their character. They repeat it, they read it, they develop the habits, they develop identity-based habits. They put on the costume, they put on the decorum, they understand the socioeconomic background. They start building a story. And when I work with people, we create the end scene of their movie. And what I have them do is act out their part at the end scene, and other people play the other characters. And the comment always is, I never knew I could do that. I never knew I could feel this way. I never knew that I even could write or that I could create. Because a lot of people start out saying, well, I'm not creative, or I'm not an act. It's not about being an actor. It's about allowing the expression to surface. And when that light starts to shine, because as soon as you make a decision to go for, I work with big, hairy, audacious goals. And as soon as you make the decision to go for it and you make a committed decision, the paradigms come up, all the old self, all which is great, because if they didn't come up, you wouldn't know what to change.
right. Right. I love what you said about that, because sometimes we can look at that and go, oh, I shouldn't be moving forward. But when you can look at it as, this is just something that's telling you these are the things you need to work on to keep going forward. Use it as a
Exactly.
gift.
Exactly. And that's where, when you're on your own, it is challenging because the paradigms are so locked in and the programming is so locked in, and those negative voices and the self-talk, right? And then when I was grieving the loss of my husband, I didn't know any of this stuff, but I was creative enough I was what's called an unconscious competent. I didn't know what I didn't know. And I created these two little pots. I put a pot that said delete, and another pot that held water. And well, the pot that was the water was the delete. And in the other pot, I put some salt. And for every negative thought that I had, I would run up to the pot, pick up a pinch of salt, drop it in the water, and say, delete. And I noticed in the beginning, I was running up to the counter a lot. I was just like the negative talk, the negative talk, the negative talks. And I would go delete, 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 delete. And then gradually I saw that I wasn't running up to the counter as much.
Mm.
This is behavioral modification,
It
right?
sure is.
And so, and one of my clients was saying that she chose to swat the ideas away, and she would be in public swatting, and people would be looking at her. And then she started noticing she wasn't swatting as much, and so I believe that it's important to feel your feelings, and it's important to replace negative thoughts with positive thoughts. But I also believe in, you can do distractions to get off the loop, because sometimes we're addicted to feelings that are not real. And it's
Mm.
distinguishing between what's a real feeling and one that you're just addicted to, and
Mm.
catching, like I was stirring my tea one day, and I was singing, God, work hard for your money, gotta work hard for your, and I was like, where is that coming from? You know, and knowing it, acknowledging it, having awareness around it and going, stop, and then if it came up again, not as long, next time, not as long, just to know that that's an addictive state.
Right. Right. And we can get addicted to those states.
Absolutely.
And it is, about changing that story, changing that state. And the ideas you've talked about are just, they're very simple.
Mm-hmm.
It's about choosing that you want to change this and then staying aware. I love the salt in the water. I've seen people use an elastic that they snap when they have that negative thought, or just things that kind of just jar you in that moment, or a thing that just, in this moment, that's not where I want to be. And as you
Exactly.
start to use it more, you need it less.
And when you start becoming aware of that, you go, oh, something's changing, or making a decision. I mean, the power of decision in every minute of the day, is being conscious. It's consciously, deliberately creating consciously, right? And with conscious effort. And I just feel that, like, if I have a behavior, I have a tendency to leave a little bit of myself everywhere. So I'll have a cup in the kitchen, I'll have a cup in the dining room, I'll have a cup in the living room, and I wanted to break that habit. So I used the commitment that every time I looked at a cup and said, I'm going to do that later, I chose that sentence meant that means do it now.
Mm.
Just that commitment alone. So if I walked by the cup and I didn't have the thought, I'll do it later, it stayed there. But if I had the thought, I'll do it later, I'd go, oh, I got to do it now. Even if I was running out the door and I was late,
Right.
And then gradually I started to see, well, the cups are not all over in every room of the house anymore, and all these little I made it fun. I made it playful. I make it so that, you can feel it and commit to it in a playful way, rather than it being, that's why I say design your messy, go for, seek failure. It's okay to make mistakes. And that's what I would do with a lot of my acting students and those who have had great success and have gone on to a lot of success and celebrity status, was because I taught them mindset. There's all the talent in the world out there, Leslie, but it doesn't get them to the level of success unless you have the mindset.
Absolutely. I 100% believe and agree with that. So how do we start? I know we're getting close to the end, to ending here, Barbara. How do we start working on that? How do we start working on that mindset?
Well, if you have a dream, and even if it's not clear, but you have an impulse, you have a desire. For example, I worked with a woman, 72 years old, a coach who wanted to lose weight. And I just said, that's just not a goal. It's just not a vision of it's not going to support you losing weight or releasing weight. And so I probed a little bit more and found out that she really admired Ernestine Shepherd, who's like an 86-year-old bodybuilder. And I said, okay, would you like to join a bodybuilding competition? And she said, yes, I'm in. I said, it's not a decision until you pay for it, you have a date, and you start training. And she did. And within 5 months, she was holding a plank longer than her trainer.
Wow.
And then she also had been writing a book for 25 years. And then I just said, how about in 3 months' time, you're going to invite 20 of your best friends to your living room to listen to the first draft of your book? She said, great. I said, it's not a decision until you send out an invitation and the date. And within 2 days, she sent out the invitation with the date. And 3 months later, I was in her living room listening to the first draft of her book. So again, it's being accountable, right? So if you're not working with a coach, if you're not working with a mentor, if you're not in a mastermind group, get an accountability buddy, get a partner. It helps that you put some skin in the game with some monetary, right? Because I've been with a lot of accountability partners myself, and if I'm not paying, I have excuses up the wazoo. And so it really helps that if you get somebody that you're going to commit to at a very high level and then start designing it through desire and allowing the desire through repetition to speak it as you want it, write it as you want it, and start to build just a couple of habits. Like if you want to be a highly successful person, look at your desk and say, is this the desk of a highly successful person? And before you go to bed at night, and look at your desk, is this the behavior of a highly successful person if everything is all disorganized and all over the place? And start making commitments, but know that these little incremental commitments through repetition are going to create new identity-based behaviors that over compound time is going to create that new identity, that new self, that future self. But it really takes commitment.
It absolutely takes commitment. And I love the way, you said, okay, it's not enough to say you want to lose the weight. What does this give you? What do you really want? All right, you haven't actually made this choice to do this until you've booked it in, or you've made that date. You've put some skin in the game.
Exactly.
And that allows you to take those steps to go forward. And what a great way to look at that, to say, I don't know that
Right.
you're
And then you kind
actually
of,
there.
and it's not about knowing how, because as soon as you know how, you stop yourself. You've got to go for it in a way
Right.
that it's, leading you. And then it closes the gap because this is where you are, this is where you want to go, and all the sufferings in between. But as you start committing, then it starts to meet you halfway.
It's true. It's true. The path does open up as you commit to that. And I also love the other thing you just said about, if you want to be, like you said, a successful CEO or whatever that is this what a successful CEO would do? Is this what a successful CEO would look like? Is this what a successful CEO? If I were a successful CEO, what would I be doing right now?
Exactly.
Which opens up that imagination, right? To start doing those things and taking those steps. Thank you, Barbara. I know you
You're
have a free
welcome.
gift for all of us.
Yes, everybody can go to thecodetosuccess.com, and there is a life
Gonna have to
script.
have it in here. I can't see her. I can only hear her.
Sorry
And
about
so
that,
there's a
Barbara.
That's
Yep.
okay. That's okay. It happens. There's a life script that you can download, and it's not just writing out your vision. I ask people to write out their feelings and to write out images and to have clarity to stimulate that visual, because it's, the conscious mind, the purpose is to focus and choose, and it helps if you start to identify what they are. So that's my free gift.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And so if you can go to the code to success.com, it will be there, right?
Yes.
Barbara, oh, awesome. That is so amazing. Now I know Hannah has just had some technical difficulties, and you also have a VIP gift.
Yes, yes. So I'm offering VIP people a subpersonality journey where it's looking at an undeveloped part of yourself that needs to go on a journey with your future self to it kind of re-envision the future. So that is, they could have it's a guided meditation and then have a session with me to work through it.
Okay, I love that. Um, what a beautiful gift to be able to find out this and to have that time with you to really work that through. So if you would like to, have this gift, Barbara's very generous gift of her time. It's $47 to upgrade to VIP. It's well worth it. You can go to, and I'm going to put this in. I know that, like I said, my Hannah is just having some technical difficulties. You can go to there and you can upgrade for $47 and receive all of the recordings. Um, and up next, our next speaker is
One
Krista
last thing,
Rose.
sorry, Leslie, just one last
Wait,
thing I'd like to leave
yep.
people with is,
Oh, yeah,
I
hold
just,
on. I'm going to ask you one last thing. Don't worry, I got you. Our next speaker is Krista Rose, and she's talking about wait and change your life. And so before we take that break and get to Krista Rose, I'd love to hear what you'd like to leave us with, Barbara.
yeah, sorry for the interruption, Leslie. What
That's
I'd
okay.
like to leave everybody with is that you don't get what you want, you get who you are being.
Ah, I like that. You don't get what you want, you get who you are being. Thank you so much, Barbara, for being here, for sharing this wisdom. There's so much that that we got out of this time together. And so thank you for being part of the Rise Up Summit.
Thank you. What a pleasure.
Now we are going to just take a 2-minute little break before Krista comes up and shares her wisdom with us. So get